how do they do it? Time seems to stand still yet rush past all at once. Nothing exists except the present moment. Whether you're playing an instrument, reading your favorite book, or running a marathon, you exist in a state of effortless effort. This is flow. Flow theory says that when we are fully immersed in the present moment, we enter a state called flow and become intrinsically motivated. We enjoy the activity just for the sake of doing it rather than being focused only on the reward at the end. The godfather of flow, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, and yes, I practiced that beforehand, explained that flow happens when one's skills are adequate to cope with the challenges at hand in a goal-directed, rule-bound action system that provides clear clues as to how one is performing. Flow has powered some of the greatest human accomplishments, from Kobe Bryant's buzzer beaters to Albert Einstein's theory of relativity, to soldiers in combat or parents handling high-stress environments. These are all examples of flow in action. There are now over 10,000 research papers done on flow, showing that the neurophysiological shifts that occurs in these states improve exactly the skills that are most needed today. Things like learning, creativity, and productivity. When you start to enter flow, your brain shifts from beta waves to alpha and theta waves. And while that might not sound like much, let me break down what that means. So delta waves are related to deep sleep and unconscious states, supporting physical healing and regeneration. Theta waves are related to light sleep, deep relaxation, meditation, and daydreaming, enhancing creativity, memory, and intuition. Alpha waves are related to calm, alert relaxation, promoting coordination, learning, and wakeful rest. Then beta waves are related to active thinking, problem solving, and focused mental activity, supporting logic and conscious thought. Then lastly, there are gamma waves, which are related to peak focus and high-level cognitive function. They aid in learning, perception, and information processing. When we're awake, we usually operate in beta waves, alert and logical. But in flow, our brain leans more towards alpha and theta waves, creating a relaxed yet focused state, like deep meditation. This balance lets the mind engage deeply without anxiety. During flow, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the part that manages self-monitoring, time awareness, and impulse control, downregulates. This leads to loss of self-awareness, a distorted sense of time, and reduces your inner critic. This is known as transient hypofrontality, which sounds intense, but it's basically your inner critic taking a nap, letting you perform without overthinking. Then, your brain releases a potent cocktail of neurochemicals. Dopamine to enhance motivation, learning, and pattern recognition. Norepinephrine for focus, energy, and arousal. Anandamide for mood, lateral thinking, and pain suppression. Serotonin to boost mood regulation and enhance the afterglow of flow. And finally, endorphins for maximizing pain relief and a sense of euphoria. Modern life is full of distractions. Uninspiring workplaces, cities designed like prisons, and constant phone notifications. It's easy to drift through the day without being present, and in order to break this cycle, we need to understand the 4 pillars of flow, that being flow blockers, proneness, triggers, and the cycle. Our brains are hardwired for flow. Animals hunt, monkeys use tools, our brains desire present moment activity. But today, distractions like phones keep us blocked. So, follow this simple rule: flow before phone. Ideally, spend 2 to 3 hours on your highest priority task first thing in the morning before even checking your phone. Start small if needed. Get ready, make your breakfast, brush your teeth, and avoid screens until you are in motion. Without distractions, I find myself thinking more clearly and entering flow more often. So now you've removed all the blockers, but you're still struggling to access flow, which happens often when you start out. Here we encounter flow proneness. This is your mental fitness, your tendency and ability to access flow. The more you train it, the easier it gets. We need to make our physiology, our psychology, and our environment conducive to accessing flow. Take my desk, for example. I would love to say that it is like this all the time, but the truth is I make sure it's neat when I'm using it so that there are no distractions that get in my way. I also enhance my chances by ensuring that the only thing I do when I'm at my desk is work. Now, sadly, for people like me, the evidence shows that the easiest way to access this state is to get up within the first 90 seconds of opening your eyes. By getting most of your work done within the first 2 to 3 hours of your day in a flow state will amplify your productivity dramatically, and everything you do for the rest of the day will be affected by this. The fancy neuroscientific reason for doing this is because your flow proneness is highest first thing in the morning, because your brain waves for sleep, theta or delta, are similar to the alpha theta waves of flow. Utilizing those first 90 seconds of the morning before the rest of the world can impose its will upon you allows you to spend the rest of your day in creative freedom. Now, triggers are essentially the conditions that pull you into flow. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi first identified several of these triggers, and since then researchers like Stephen Kotler have expanded the list. There are now around 22 known triggers. They can be simple things like rhythm, a repetitive playlist, or a quiet space. Triggers work by sparking the dopamine response in the brain. Things like risk, unpredictability, and dancing all produce dopamine. As these little bursts hit, skills like pattern recognition start to improve. The more triggers you have present in an activity, the quicker you enter flow, the deeper the state is, and the longer you stay in it for. Some activities lend themselves naturally to flow, things like playing music, sports, or gaming. Csikszentmihalyi identified 3 key triggers that he called the golden rule, these being a clear goal, immediate feedback, and the challenge skills balance. Essentially, we focus most when a task stretches our abilities just slightly beyond what we can comfortably do. So in order to access flow, you need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, pushing your limits without breaking them. For example, say I wanted to learn something on the piano. If I chose Chopin's Fantasy Impromptu, I would get the immediate feedback that my skills aren't quite up to the task. Ideally, the task should be around 4% harder than my current skill level. So if instead I chose a piece by, say, Ludovico Einaudi, it would be a bit easier as I've already played his music before. In this scenario, I have the clear goal, immediate feedback, and a challenge that is just above my current skill level. This is the perfect setup for flow. Finally, we have the cycle. Herbert Benson, a cardiologist, introduced a concept called the breakout principle. This principle describes a powerful biological trigger that can transform conflict and confusion into clarity and extraordinary performance. It starts with struggle, the loading phase at the beginning of a task. During this stage, your brain releases cortisol, the stress hormone, and norepinephrine, which is tied to the fight or flight response. This creates a feeling of discomfort and makes you want to quit the task. And the hard truth is that most people spend years or even decades stuck in those first few minutes of the loading phase. The key is learning to persist through the struggle. This comes down to task persistence, which can be trained through a technique called attention span stretching. When you push to the edge of wrestling with the task, release happens. As you persist, your brain starts to release dopamine, boosting focus and motivation, and finally, you move through struggle and you move through release into flow itself. Once you're in flow, the cycle continues. repeating as you tackle new challenges and maintain this state of heightened focus and performance. So to create the ideal conditions for work, aim for 90 to 120 minutes of uninterrupted focus to start. Clear your environment of clutter, manage potential distractions ahead of time, and make sure that your phone is out of the room or at least turned off, and let others know that you do not wish to be disturbed. There was a study done that showed coders who were pulled out of a flow state can take up to 15 minutes to re-enter it if they can re-enter it at all, as flow only happens when your full attention is in the present moment. Now, once you emerge from flow, your brain enters a recovery phase. During this time, it replenishes the costly neurochemicals that it released, recovers from the intense mental effort, and consolidates the knowledge and skills that you've gained. That's why it's crucial to include activities outside of work, things that allow your mind to rest so you don't burn out. Some people find it easier to reach flow than others. Check Me High called these individuals autotelic, meaning they're more likely to enjoy life and engage in activities for their own sake rather than for the external reward. This being said, it is important to remember that flow is accessible to everyone who opens themselves to it. And with all that in mind, let me leave you with some wise words from Check Me High himself. Flow theory encourages us to take control of our inner experiences, recognizing that happiness is more than something that happens to us. It is something we can influence. By taking control, we create a state of existence that boosts our performance and well-being. And by creating the right conditions, almost any task or situation can become one of flow. The perceived challenge and skill becomes balanced. Goals are set within reach and clearly defined. Feedback is regular and helpful, and focus is intense and consuming. Well, thank you for watching and for joining me at the start of what I hope will be a long and adventurous journey. I hope you found this video enjoyable and thought-provoking, because someone has to, and it may as well be you. And until next time, remember this: one day we will all be stardust. So until then, you may as well subscribe.